in honor of Cocopelli. My background for today. We are approaching a change, shift in the energies, if you will, from the expansive version of what it means to be, tune into, sense, feel, and grow with the process of Sagittarius. It won't just entirely disappear off the screen, per se, as we shift from Sagittarius into Capricorn, as we close out this upcoming week with the winter solstice. But, many things are afoot. Let's take a look here at the chart. There we go. What day? Oh. Oops. There we are. Today's Saturday. No, today's Sunday. Yesterday was Saturday. Overnight last night, we just happened to have one of those fluky clearings in the weather. And as I was getting ready to go to bed, I'm looking up out at the skylight and I go, look, there's the full moon. And right next to it, there's Jupiter. And I went, Jupiter and the moon right there together here. This is a kind of a Saturday morning look at what was about. And as Saturday was shifting into Sunday, today is Sunday, by the way, that moon and Jupiter were sharing things. And the moon, out of bounds, what kind of wild and crazy thoughts might that full moon bring up? It was in the air. We look at this declination. It was at 27 degrees north declination, which is a north-south. You may have noticed that if you happen to have been in an area where you could actually see the moon on a more regular basis, it's moving steadily northward, further in the sky to the north. And here's Jupiter down here at 21 degrees north, almost 22 degrees north. The declinations, that north and south movement of the planets, can show the possibility of their being parallel. And this is almost like a parallel of that out of bounds moon and Jupiter very close together in the sky, which, as I'm looking out above the skylight last night, I'm kind of going, yeah, they're like holding hands right up there, only it's just a small distance between them. But this is the moon. How do I feel? In the zone of Gemini, am I curious? Do I, want to know more? Are there factors that are stimulating my imagination that is at work? And Jupiter right there with it, not necessarily in its happiest zone when it's in its detriment there in Gemini. Still Jupiter. And so this full moon, Jupiter, what else is there? Where can I go that I'm sensing I need to go in order to, expand this curiosity factor that is stimulating all of my particle space that I'm existing in? That was kind of the flavor of that full moon last night. What else have we got going on here? We have this kind of a longer range consideration, which is actually going to come into effect the week after next, is this exact square between Saturn and Jupiter. And we're going to get back to this Saturn and Jupiter considerations as the sun shifts from Sagittarius into Capricorn. But hang in there. We'll come to that. Mercury, here it is. This is Sunday. This is Sunday. Mercury's in its last day of retrograde here. It's been hovering around at 6 degrees of Sagittarius in this retrograde dance, and it's going to be at 6 degrees when it turns around and begins its forward motion again. Hopefully, with any luck, or with perhaps maybe some persistence, you have utilized this most recent Mercury retrograde cycle to investigate something. Really dig into some aspect of your life experience that, needed some really deeper, perhaps more profound, broader version of what potentials might be there for you to grow into. You feel that, Sagittarius, in that? Yeah. I almost can sense the Cocopelli flute playing in the background again. We're not going to go there yet. Maybe as we proceed in this dance today. As Monday comes around, as it does, so look at that. Mercury now, it's white. Mercury has gone direct. So as Sunday changes into Monday, Mercury says, okay, that's enough going backwards. I'm going to turn around now. Now Mercury going direct in Sagittarius as a follow up, if you will, for what it was that you had the opportunity to investigate and look into during its retrograde cycle, is, its opportunity, to say, I think it might be time to test the waters, so to speak, as to what exactly might the thing. Now, I'm gingerly heading my way into this because I had this dream, not last night, but the night before, where I wrote it down as what the muses came in and had to say to me. Last night, I got up at 3 o'clock in the morning to write this down because I didn't think I really entirely remember it. Well, last night, the muses cast a spell, under which I willingly fell. Now, how I have been utilizing the last couple weeks of this Mercury retrograde cycle is a dance with words. And this is what my dreams were all about. How the use of language, of words, can actually be a bit more focused than one might think. Now, my daughter, she contacted me just prior to Thanksgiving. She was coming up from Oregon for Thanksgiving. She says, Jeff, do you have any live edge wood, by the way? I said, yeah, as a matter of fact, I do have some live edge wood. And this is cedar that I had cut on my mill from the cedar trees that were left over from our logging operation that we did a number of years ago. And I kiln dried it in my solar kiln that I built for drying out the wood and stashed it into my shed. I said, yeah, I do happen to have some. So she came up and we made a bunch of shelving for her place, which, they've been renting the place for years and now they bought it. So now it's theirs and they can start making some actual changes in it. But, after she was gone back, taking her shelving material with her, I looked at the pile of material I had in the shop and I went, what am I going to do with these end cuts off of these boards? Well, Mercury's retrograde, and I'm thinking, what is it that I want to do? I'm going to show you. This is what happened with these end cut boards that I had. There are two versions, And the reason there are two versions is because decided I'm going to make some word plaques that can be hung up. And, you know, not to do just something that you can hang up and look at that one word. I decided, well, I'm going to paint one side with one word. I'm going to paint the other sides with a different word. Related words, but not the same. And so how I utilize this retrograde mercurial cycle was to come up with this idea. And this is where the muses came in. You know, because as the muses were tickling my imagination the night before last, I'm going, my artistic sides are percolating. And the muses are saying, yes, yes, Jeff. How many of these do you want to make? I have a lot of wood. You know, it takes time to put these things together, you know, hours, days. You know, like I say, it took me a couple of weeks to fabricate these particular ones that I was working on. And they gave me a picture and said, Jeff, make some more of these. There are more words, and words can carry weight. And the muses, they're all excited about this project they gave me. And I'm going, this is a 2025 project for me to, you know, create these things. And it's just, yeah. And I can almost hear my wife in the background. We don't have any more wall space to hang these, Jeff. You've already got art up all over the place. It is true, you know. And perhaps, I don't know how, but perhaps somehow, some way, I will find a place where I can display these things in a more public manner rather than just here on my interactive space of a podcast. Anyway, that was part of the adventure of, you know, expanding on that Mercurial retrograde Sagittarian version of, you know, how more expressive can I be with words? Well, you can see that I do have an expressive side, and the words came through. And, you know, it was like in my dreams that I was having so many words were coming through saying, yeah, include me in this dictionary of, you know, phrases and words about, you know, and putting it out there, getting the mental follicles, if you were, to fire the synapses in all of our brain capacities in different ways of, you know, utilizing language to inspire. That was one of the words that was on those plaques that you just saw. Anyway, there's a side note for our astrological considerations. Now that we got to Monday, Mercury has gone direct. We'll go direct tomorrow. Let's take a look real quick. Yeah, the moon is still out of bounds. It doesn't. I think that may be the last day for the moon being out of bounds. December 17th. Oh, we got one more day. So, a couple of things to observe. Here is, we've got we've got the sun in the process of forming into a square with Neptune, which recently went direct here in Pisces. Both Pisces and Sagittarius are ruled by this retrograde Jupiter over here in Gemini. Remember that. You know, there are factors in play that are, you know, stimulating, you know, that, you know, Sagittarian larger perspective. And Piscean version of how deep do you want to go with that larger perspective of your visions, your imaginations. You can kind of sense a Neptunian character in play there saying, think out of the box, you know. There's a lot more capabilities of what we can create if we, would release, any restrictions we might have upon ourselves. They're in play, of course, because Saturn as well is down there in Pisces, and Saturn, it can have some of that capacity of, don't go too far. There's a meaning why I put up the walls around this experience that said, this is the container we have to work within, and yet it's Pisces, There's a more fluid quality, shall we say, to that theoretical borderland perimeter experience that might be around things while Pisces is in play. It's more flexible, more, perforatable, if you will. Let's dance our way further into the week. Oh, before I do that, we also have this square pattern that is in play with this Saturn and Jupiter. See that nice square there? Jupiter, I'm the ruler of Pisces, which is where that Saturn is. I'm also the ruler of where the Sun is, Sagittarius. And so magic is afoot, if you but perceive it. So we go to Tuesday, a Mars day, and Mars just recently turned retrograde. It's going backwards, heading back toward Cancer, and you can kind of see the moon here is Tuesday. It's a Mars day, and the moon is going to go over that Mars. And what is it going to stimulate, do you think, as it, tickles the realm of Leo? Leo is outward expression, trying to, invent, invigorate, instill a outward testing of personal expression. The moon, you can kind of see it's in Cancer to start this day, shouldn't be out of bounds anymore. Oh, of course, still out of bounds. This is the 17th. But on this day, it's going to come back in bounds. But it's out of bounds to begin this day, heading toward that Mars. And so you can kind of sense, if you will, that Mars, that driving energy of Mars, it's in retrograde. So it's having to, maybe tread a little bit more gently, if you will, into that overt expression arena. But, being tickled by an out-of-bounds moon, good luck on that. You almost feel the rumbling of an energy that wants to escape and through you and say something out into your surrounding environment that might surprise you, might surprise other people, that you would actually do this. That's a kind of an exciting Tuesday energy. Wednesday comes along. I think Mars is, or the moon, moon, nothing's out of bounds here. No reds there on the screen. And for the rest of the week, I don't think we have we don't have any more out of bounds things to play with. However, Wednesday's a Mercurial day, and Mercury is going direct. It's, kind of sense. I'm feeling my mental oats are, being stimulated in that realm of Sagittarius. So it's like, are there limits? I don't think so. And the sun is still in Sagittarius. So I almost have like a bookend here of the Sagittarian dance going on. Saturn and Jupiter, they're getting closer, but they aren't exactly formed. But it's still a square energy, which means it's kind of a tension between Jupiter going for the more in Gemini's curiosity realm, and Saturn saying, "Be careful, you know, don't go too far." And yet at the same time, it's like Saturn can't really, try to overtly clamp down on the Jupiterian energy because Saturn is in a Jupiter-ruled sign, Pisces. It's saying, well, okay, Jupiter, if you're going to, be so energized to be out there, perhaps there are avenues of the spiritual archetype, Pisces, that we might be able to stimulate as a foundation or a container within which to actually act. It's a possibility if you're willing. It's when also on this day, the sun here at 27 degrees of Sagittarius is in an exact square with Neptune down here at 27 degrees Pisces. There's our Jupiter factor being brought into the equation again. I would, just add an emphasis onto, how willing are you, am I, to actually tap quite specifically into our creative imagination realms and utilize that energy, take chances. It's a square, so, there will be some resistance potentially in the air. But the irony of even the resistance is like, oh God, you're saying things that, I'm not overtly necessarily comfortable with. And yet at the same time, my sensing is that, there's something there. There's a homogeneous kind of energy in play. I can't quite put my finger on it, but, I sense that, and this is the Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Sun energy, all saying, we want to play together. We want to stimulate, if you will, aspects of your being that you may be holding back on. It won't necessarily come easy to you. These are squares we're talking about. But if you can hurdle, if you will, those seeming, proto-blockades that you likely put up in your path, you might be surprised at what develops. Because, squares are challenging, but they're also a potential revelation, if you will, if you don't succumb to them in a negative fashion, of building a foundation that is overtly practical and can be built upon in the development of character qualities that have dynamic meaning. They carry some real weight to them. Got get carried away here. All along the watchtower. Don't ask me where that's coming from. To add an extra dimension into this, our Aquarius dance this is going on, which Venus, Pluto is basically hardly moving at all because it's Pluto after all. What's the race? What's the rush? But Venus, that experience of, how can I energize the experience of what it means to get together with other people? there's an Aquarian dance that is like you can almost hear the music playing in the background saying, oh, my feet, I just can't stop my feet. I feel like I need to dance and I need a partner to dance with. And it's in the process of forming a trine to this Jupiter up here in Gemini. Am I going to be curious enough to, take that chance? Ask that other partner, do you sense, a rumbling in your feet that says that we should be on the dance floor experimenting? Yeah, so there's some added stimulation into this dance of what's going on here as the sun approaches its entrance into Capricorn, which happens on Saturday. Now, excuse me. As the sun drifts from one sign to the next, you get these energy shifts that are transpiring, which you may or may not overtly pick up on them. They're in play, whether you pick up on them or not. Because Sagittarius we've been in this realm for a month where the ideas of what else is there have been, tickling the follicles of our imaginations, wanting us to, take chances, go out there, explore, be on a quest. These are very Sagittarian kind of thoughts, and it's that curiosity level it's just stimulated. And as the sun shifts from Sagittarius into Capricorn, which it does here on Saturday, boom, see, there it is, sun in Capricorn. I'm going to go back to my word dance. There are words and energies that Capricorn represents. Here is the ultimate highest sign of the zodiac, epitomal, if you will, the sign of the wise elder, the sign of a father, per se, yet at the same time also hermit or executive. These are good Capricorn terms. A manager, if you will. I'm going to read out just some seemingly random Capricornian terms that are potentially in play as the sun moves into the Capricorn dance. Authoritative, structured, disciplined, practical, mature, ambitious, methodical, hard-working, careful, conservative, self-controlled. Let's just tweak that just a little bit. Those are the more positive traits. Let's take a look at some of the more challenging words that could fit into that Capricorn dance. Lonely, pessimistic, overworking, materialistic, stern, miserly, cold, reserved, bossy, restricting. You make the choices as to in what direction are you inclined or pulled toward. Is it the meaningful Capricornian leadership, wise elderhood version of what is possible? Are you, feeling the Saturnian restricted kind of energy? Well, let's, go back to our thoughts that we were having just a few minutes ago. Yes, the sun is going into the sign of Capricorn. The ruler of Capricorn is Saturn. Saturn is down here in Pisces. And what have we just been discussing about that Saturnian, Jupiterian, Sagittarian, Piscean version of reality? It's in play as the sun shifts into Capricorn, saying, yeah, there's these potential restrictions that Saturn represents, but Saturn's in Pisces. Be more flexible and fluid with what it is that is a potential, ability to be able to penetrate, if you will, any kind of a borderland restrictive quality that actually can be moved through. And the Jupiterian side can say, there's more potential here than you realize. From a Piscean perspective, that's Saturn saying, there can be a deeper and more profound meaning to this spiritual quest. Yeah, we still have a little of that Sagittarian work in play because Mercury's still up here, now going direct in Sagittarius. And might we effectively be able to be a more in-tuned, authoritative personality version of ourselves that has more of an inclusive quality, more of that Jupiterian, Pisces, Sagittarian quest factor that says there is more potential of what it is that we can do if we're working together than individually. You can kind of sense in this, there's a Capricornian version that is potentially in play as we step into this next sign on the shortest day of the year that can lead us on a different kind of path. As we go into Sunday, this is going to be the last quarter, the waning quarter moon is going to transpire. This is crisis in consciousness, as Dane Rudger referred to that waning quarter moon. And it will be at, an early degree of Libra. Libra is ruled by Venus down here in Aquarius. You have to ask yourself, does my version of group energy, Aquarius, hold enough inclusivity of others to be free amongst themselves in what it is that we can share in a potential togetherness? I'm just going to leave you with a parting shot of these words as they, hopefully stimulate aspects of your being in a way that you might take some chances. Dance into this new Capricornian process with a spirit of adventure. Hear, if you will, those tonal flute qualities coming through from Kokopelli saying, dance. Tune into those words. See you all next week. I have many thoughts as to what 2025 is going to represent, and I keep wondering, am I going to shift my astrological considerations? It is in the offing, as to how best to keep all of us stimulated in doing this astrological dance. I'm doing it all the time. And this is one of the reasons for my podcast, to keep us, invigorated and alive and not shifting into a background corner of reality upon which, we're hardly in touch with anybody else. No, astrology, we have all the makeup of all the 12 signs and all the 10 planets and so many other things that are saying, step up to the plate. Do the dance. Enjoy the experience of being with one another. That's one of the vehicles that astrology brings up. Anyway, I am going to let that go. And Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy winter solstice. And stay tuned.